Hi everybody, I'm Jared Pike. This is Shell Point Today for the weekend, February 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. On today's show, Charlotte Stemple previews an academy class in something we all may need to do at one point, public speaking. But first, a quick rundown of events happening on Saturday. Case manager Janine Hammond knows better than anyone the importance of keeping all your important documents organized. It's not the most exciting activity, but it's absolutely vital for you and your family. Learn how at the LifeQuest group discussion, happening Saturday at 10 a.m. in the Grand Cypress Room. Also coming this Saturday, the Resident Employee Table Tennis Tournament. Now, we tried this last month on the tennis courts, and it was a wild success with, we admit, a decided victory by the residents over the staff. Now we're bringing it indoors, matching up the finest ping pong players at Shell Point from both the residents and the staff. The fun begins this Saturday at 1:15 p.m. in the Tarpon Room in the tunnel. And then next Friday, the big day has finally arrived. The Aquatic Center is nearing completion as they finish the landscaping and other final touches. You'll have the chance to see it in person at the grand opening ribbon-cutting event happening next Friday, February 28th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're also welcoming back aquatic exercise expert Dr. Bruce Becker to discuss how this new aquatic center can change your life. So, mark it on your calendar. The Aquatic Center grand opening next Friday, February 28th. Now, let's take a minute to talk about public speaking. Now, it's something that we do on a daily basis, but chances are most of you don't get that much practice. When you're called upon to say a few words, it can be terrifying, but it doesn't have to be. Charlotte Stemple averages 50 public speaking engagements a year, and she has tips that can help you conquer the podium. Sign up for public speaking starting Monday at 10:15 a.m. in the Social Center on the island. Here's a preview.
Hello everyone, I'm here today with Charlotte Stemple of Solana. We're speaking about a class you might want to know about in the Academy of Lifelong Learning, public speaking. Thanks for joining me, Charlotte.
Oh, you're welcome.
Those two words just spark terror in the hearts of men and women, don't they? Public speaking.
I think they do. The technical term is glossophobia, and it is now the third greatest fear of Americans when they're given a list of like 50 things. First comes out economic security or job security. Second is terrorist attack. And third is public speaking.
Oh my goodness, up there above root canals.
Yeah.
And that is amazing. Well, you have done it for a long time, 50 speaking engagements a year. What is it like for you to do public speaking?
Well, it is never easy. People say, oh, you can do it because you do it so much. But I take it very seriously, and I prepare everything I do very conscientiously. And the main thing I prepare I like to fulfill the reason they've asked me to come to their podium to speak.
Well, interesting that you say preparation, because you are giving us this gift of helping people learn to prepare to do public speaking. And it's just obvious that many, many people in our community do public speaking. They introduce groups, clubs, people to each other, volunteer in many ways. So it's really something everybody can gain from.
It is.
What will happen when someone comes to this class on public speaking?
Well, what will happen when they come to the class, the first class will be all lecture. And I have a lot of handouts, and I'm going to give the 10 Commandments for public speaking. And I'm also going to give how to build a speech from start to finish. So they will learn how to craft a speech, more or less. Then the second time, I'm only going to have 15 minutes of lecture, and that'll be basically on just including stories and how to get your story to fit what you want to talk about. But the rest of the time, they will have a little assignment from the first class to give a speech. And the third time will be the same. And those are as important as the lectures, because then they can look at that and evaluate. And nobody has to be scared about it. Nobody's going to pass or fail. But we are privileged to have a videotape of the speeches, which they can, if they want, purchase afterwards and see what the recommendations were for their speech after they've completed it.
So they'll be able to learn how to craft a speech. They'll learn from others who are going to be giving speeches. They'll give their own speech, and then they'll learn from the critique.
That's exactly right.
Oh, that's wonderful. Tell us about Charlotte Stempel. How did you get into public speaking?
Well, number one, in my home. In my home, we had a very verbal home. And we had a conversation every night. We had to tell our story of what happened that day. So I became a storyteller in my home. Then I had a very good teacher in high school. And I became on the high school speech team, and we traveled all over the state, and we gave competitive speeches, extemporaneous, debate, all the forms of speech. I did as like a team sport in the high school, and then from there, I think it just grew. And when I'd speak, someone would say, well, "You ought to speak here or there," and then. I'm not a big famous person that speaks a lot, but in my own circle of people, I do speak a lot. I still speak. Since 2000, I average 50 times a year. Last year, 51. Now, by public speaking, I mean something that I have to prepare for and get in front of an audience. I don't call, praying out loud a public speech or something like that, but I mean when I'm asked to prepare something. Yeah.
Well, Charlotte, I cannot thank you enough for doing the very best of what we have in our academy, which is a talented person generously sharing, so the rest of us can gain from it. We really appreciate it.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
We all are.
Okay.
Public Speaking with Charlotte Stempel, 3 sessions, the first one Monday, February 24th. Sign up is required.
Coming up, we are covering all of the weekend's happenings, Academy news, menus, and church news. Then stay tuned for our Shell Point TV Week in Review.
Hello, this is the weekend edition of Shell Point TV. You're here with Leslie Brand and Bev Chanley, and we have a lot going on for the next 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so make sure you listen up. We're going to start at 8 o'clock, the men's match play doubles tennis at the tennis courts at the Woodlands. 8:15, Stamp Ministry. Volunteers are welcome in the stamp room on the island. 8:30 is the marketplace in the administration courtyard. That goes until 11:30. 9:30, Susie Q's going out to the Green Flash for lunch. Sign up is required. 10 o'clock, we have Canasta in the game room at the Woodlands. Also at 10 o'clock is the men's match play doubles tennis at the tennis courts. 10:15, Inquiring Minds in the Manatee Room on the island. 10:30, golf croquet at the bocce courts at the Woodlands. 12:30 is the mixed progressive bridge in the game room at the Woodlands. 1:15, table tennis in the tarpon room on the island. Also at 1:15 is quilters in the Osprey room. 1:30, Great Decisions in the Manatee Room. And the train room will be open for tours from 1:30 to 3:30 in the train room on the island. 2 o'clock, we have Euchre in the stable room at the Woodlands. 2:45, the resident quarterly meeting at the church auditorium on the island. At 5 o'clock, we're going to Connor's Steakhouse and Seafood for dinner. Court pickups will start at 5 o'clock on the island, 5:10 at the Woodlands, and 5:20 at Eagles Preserve. Sign up is required at either service desk. 6:45, game night at the Resident Activity Center. That concludes Friday's activities. Now here's Saturday activities with Bev.
Thanks, Leslie. That's quite a Friday. Saturday morning, we start out at 8 o'clock with round-robin doubles tennis down at the Woodlands tennis courts. At 9 o'clock, you'll find pickleball at the pickleball court behind the Resident Activity Center. At 9:30, the women's doubles tennis will be down at the Woodlands tennis courts. We'll move to 9:45, where duplicate bridge will be played. That'll be in the Manatee Room. Also at 9:45, we have a Health Connections class. This one is the pole walking class, and that'll be in the Health Club. That's currently full. At 10 o'clock, we have the Life Quest group discussion in the Grand Cypress Room of the Woodlands. Then we move to 10:15, where the Model Yacht Club will be sailing their boats at the Garden Apartment Pond on the island. 1 o'clock is the time for chess. That'll be in the library lounge at the Resident Activity Center. 1:15, the resident staff table tennis tournament will be held in the Tarpon Room. At 3:15, we have basic line dancing down in the health club. And our last Saturday activity is 6:30, where you'll find duplicate bridge in the Manatee Room. Now here's Leslie to tell you about our Sunday activities.
Thank you, Bev. We're going to start Sunday at 9 o'clock in the Christian Life Studies in the game room at the Woodlands. 9:15, we also have a Christian Life Studies at the Village Church. 10:15, morning worship at the Village Church on the island. This will also be broadcasted live on Shell Point TV, Channel 12. 1:30 is the Mixed Golf League at the Shell Point Golf Club. 3:15, the Ballroom Line Dancing for Beginners at the Health Club on the island. And we're going to end our Sunday at 6:15, Season of Praise with the Annie Moses Band. This will be at the Village Church on the island, and a ticket is required. Well, thank you for joining us. You have a busy weekend ahead of you, so we hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you right back here Monday morning.
Hi, I'm Terry Kolath with your Academy information for the weekend. On Friday, February 21st at 9:15 in the morning, Adobe Photoshop Elements will continue in the Computer Teaching Center on the island. I look forward to sharing with you what we have coming next week. On Monday the 24th, Charlotte Stemple of Solana begins 3 sessions on public speaking. And Phyllis Langberg of Sundial will share the life cycle of our Shell Point Island osprey family in her program, Empty Nesters. On Tuesday, Professor Adrian Kerr wraps up his story of Burma, Land of the Temples, with Session 2. And Dr. Jonathan Shivers presents a Healthy Pet Seminar. On Thursday, we have a computer class, Introduction to the Spreadsheet, with Jeff Hennick of Teledora. And on Friday, a Technology Today and Tomorrow class, Digital Photography, with the iPhone, the iPod Touch, and the iPad, with Bruce Findlay of Sundial.
Menus for your weekend. In the Crystal Room, the Crystal Platter on Friday is homemade crab cakes with yellow rice and grilled vegetables. The dinner special is the seafood buffet for $14.95, and the soup of the day is pasta fagioli. In the Island Cafe for lunch on Friday, enjoy a seafood basket with coleslaw for $7.25. The dinner special is Chef's Choice for $8.25. Dinner specials in the Palm Grill on Friday are lamb chops for $21.95 or veal Oscar for $18.95. On Saturday, the Crystal Room is closed. In the Island Cafe for lunch on Saturday, enjoy a French dip with onion rings for $7.25. For dinner, the special is chicken francaise with rice pilaf and carrots for $8.25. Dinner specials in the Palm Grill on Saturday are prime rib for $19.95 or short ribs for $15.95. On Sunday, the Crystal Room features its Sunday brunch for $17.50. In the Island Cafe for lunch on Sunday, enjoy an Italian meatball sub with chips for $7.25. The dinner special is Chef's Choice for $8.25. And the Palm Grill is closed on Sundays. All menus are available 24 hours a day at www.shellpoint.net.
Hi, I'm Randy Woodson. I'm here today with Pastor Andy as we approach the weekend, looking forward to continuing our study in the book of Hebrews, celebrating God's goodness as we worship together Sunday morning. And so we'll continue. Last week was the introduction into the book of Hebrews. And where are we headed this Sunday?
Well, that's a great question. We're actually still doing a little bit of an introduction to the book. But I've always been struck by a couple of things about the book of Hebrews. One is that it usually tends to have the reputation of being a very deep book. Rich in its theology, and especially its theology of Christ. And so people tend to look at that book as, when they get into it, to be almost an overwhelming study. But at the same time, it claims to be just a word of encouragement.
Okay.
and so we're going to look at that, and basically the title of the message will be This Word of Encouragement, because the purpose of the book of Hebrews is really to lift up the saints, to encourage the saints, to exhort the saints to continue on to do the things that God wants them to do, even in the midst of difficulty, and persevere through trials and those kinds of things. So that's one aspect of the book that we'll talk about. The other aspect is that it's really just my favorite book of the Bible.
Oh. I thought you said that about Ephesians.
I say that about every book. No, actually, it's my favorite in this sense. It's really a miniature Bible.
Okay.
Because the book of Hebrews includes more quotations from the Old Testament than any other New Testament book. Mm-hmm. And so I think that if I were stranded on a desert island and only could have one book with me of the Bible, it would be the book of Hebrews, simply because it gives me the expanse of redemptive history in just one small set of 13 chapters. And so that's one of the reasons why I love the book.
We will be enriched as we study together, I'm sure. Right.
Now, the choir is going to contribute to that worship service.
Sure. As we share each week, it's a delight to work with the choir. And the choir is going to be singing Joel Rainey's toe-tapping gospel setting of Peace Like a River.
Oh, fantastic.
That and Nani Letts playing the piano and sharing together in the service. The anthem is accompanied by a duo piano. My wife, Karen's playing with Liz Jarrett. So that's always fun, a little more rhythm in the accompaniment. But we'll share together in a great celebration, and trust you'll join us Sunday morning as we worship together.
That's good. Now, what's happening in the evening?
Well, the evening, as we continue in our season of praise, we're looking forward to having the ministry of the Annie Moses Band.
Wow. Okay.
And that's a real privilege. This talented family with Bill and Robin Wolliver and their 5 children, all Juilliard grads, and a variety of program from the classic to the traditional hymn tunes and contemporary songs. I know that folks are really going to enjoy that.
I've never heard that band, but I've heard so many great things about them that I'm really looking forward to that great weekend.
Well, it's going to be a great weekend. I trust you'll join us as we worship and celebrate God's goodness at the Village Church. Sunday morning, 10:15, and then the concert with the Annie Moses Band Sunday night at 6:15. Tickets are $10 for the evening concert, and I trust that you'll get yours soon. Have a wonderful day and a great weekend.
We are replaying some of the week's best stories from Shell Point TV. And to help us do that is my colleague, Rochelle Chernowski. Rochelle.
Thank you very much, Jared. We began this week with an advisory from Lee County Sheriff Mike Scott about the latest phone scam that hit Shell Point.
Hi there. I'm Lee County Sheriff Mike Scott. Think you recognize that voice on the other end of the line? Well, it might not be who you think it is. That's what a couple of Lee County residents recently learned when they received calls from a young person claiming to be their grandchild. The first one went like this. A young male caller said, "Grandpa, this is your oldest grandson." The grandparents responded, "Edward?" The caller confirmed, "Yes, Grandpa, I need some help." The caller went from there to ask for $3,000. The second call went like this. A young female caller said, "Grandma, do you know who this is?" The grandmother responded, "Elizabeth?" The caller confirmed, "Yes, Grandma. I've been in a car accident in Vancouver, and I need $3,200 so I can repair my car and return home." You can see how easily the caller was able to obtain their grandchildren's names and engage them in a conversation. Thankfully, in these cases, no money was lost. Both seniors were lucky. They were unable to send any money. Both said they felt bad until they read a fraud alert posted in their community's clubhouses. Remember, never give out information until you have confirmed who you are talking to. A good way to do this is to call your grandchild or their parent to confirm what you are being told. If you feel as though you are the potential victim of a scam, never hesitate to call the Lee County Sheriff's Office. 477-1000. That's 477-1000. I'm Lee County Sheriff Mike Scott. Stay safe and have a great day.
Dennis Landfried from Finemark Bank told us about the importance of choosing a financial advisor.
Hello, I'm Jessica Stillwell with Finemark National Bank and Trust, and today we're talking about choosing a financial advisor, and this is obviously a very important decision that a lot of people are considering. And joining me today to talk about it is Dennis Landfried, Vice President and also Private Wealth Advisor at Finemark. And Dennis, you talk to a lot of people all of the time who are going through this process of selecting a financial advisor. Tell me some of the scenarios that they're going through, or who are these people who are considering this?
There are a lot of people that are not happy with their current advisors that are looking around. There are people that maybe have recently lost a spouse that handled all the financial affairs, and now the surviving spouse needs help. There are a lot of different scenarios where people are looking for advisors, maybe diminished capacity, or they just don't want to do it anymore.
Right. A lot of people have done it on their own probably, and then they get to a certain point in life where they realize that they need to have some things met as they continue on in life, and they want to make sure it's done correctly, I would assume.
Right.
All right, so let me give you this scenario. Let's say it was your parents, and your parents were asking, who do I choose, or how do I go about looking? What would be the first thing? And I know at FindMark, the first thing you're probably going to say is relationship.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I think that you need to have a deep relationship with your advisor. It can't be a surface relationship or a relationship that surrounds products. Getting to know your client as an advisor is extremely important because you want to know their objectives, their risks, their family dynamics, their income needs, their concerns.
And now, Dennis, I think some people might be thinking right now, well, how do I know if they're good at relationships if I haven't hired them yet? But the relationship should really start before. It should start in the selection process before you've hired someone. If someone doesn't want to give you enough time to create a relationship and really learn about you, then they probably aren't the right person or company.
That's exactly right. You should take your time to make a decision. You should really get to know the person or the people that you're dealing with before you deal with them. So you shouldn't jump into anything. Your
next one, find someone who looks at the big picture. What does that really mean?
Again, it goes back to a product-driven type relationship where if people are trying to sell you something, then they're not always taking a step back and looking at the big picture to see what really should be going on in your personal universe. And a good advisor will do that. They'll take a step back and they'll look at your situation, and you may have different baskets of assets with different advisors. Your advisor should be looking at all of those baskets together to make a sound decision for you. If you don't do that, then you might make decisions that are counter to other advisors, and it may take you off track with your plan.
And not just advisors, but also attorneys, CPAs. I mean, there are oftentimes a lot of people involved with your finances and what's happening in your life.
Yeah, there's no question about it. We always try to involve the CPA and the attorney. We want to know what your estate planning looks like and make sure that all your titling is correct. We want to make sure that we understand your tax scenario before making investment decisions. We want to know how all these things impact you specifically and no one else. So it's very important that all those parties be around the same table for you.
Okay, our next one is tools and resources. What does that mean?
We have at FindMark what is called an open architecture structure. And I think that's a very rare thing to be able to offer clients in the financial industry. Many organizations, as they get big, they consolidate their resources and they provide a scenario that might be an A, B, C scenario. And if that A, B, or C doesn't exactly fit the client, you still have to choose one of them because those are the only options. In an open architecture scenario, we take all the best resources that exist out there and we bring them to the table. And then when you develop a deep relationship with a client, you can tailor that relationship to the client without trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
All right, and finally, experience.
Yeah, experience is very, very important. And people that have been through ups in the market, downs in the market, very low interest rate environments, very high interest rate environments, and they know how to react to those different scenarios. So you want to work with an organization not only from an investment standpoint, but from a planning standpoint that they've seen a lot of different scenarios, and they know how to react and put you in the right position as a client.
And we should say with that, we do have some young portfolio managers or private wealth advisors as well. But the good thing is they can go to the other people with a lot of years of experience, and everyone works together. And so I would think that you would also want to find an organization wherever you go that people are willing to work with each other. It's not competitive, but everyone's working for the best interests of the client.
Yeah, that's exactly true, and I think the way that we position ourselves is as a team for the client. So we offer a lot of different strengths, and I think we can pull from those strengths very easily to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward for the client.
And I would think that in conclusion too, it's got to feel right. Like I would think your advisor should be someone who you're close to, who you could tell anything, that you don't keep any secrets, especially your financial secrets or anything. You need to feel comfortable to talk to them and come to them. And if you have questions, concerns, you should feel absolutely comfortable. Yeah,
there's no question. I feel like, and I think most of our staff at FindMark feel like that we're in a face-to-face business, and that if our clients have concerns at any given time, they should be able to reach out, access us, and meet with us on a regular basis so that we can address those concerns. Financial planning is an evolving thing, and it changes, and so we need to be in a proactive position to be able to deal with those changes. And that goes for extended family too. So sons and daughters and brothers and sisters and mom and dad. We want to get to know not only our clients but their family, so that if there are any questions, they're familiar with us and they can work with us closely. All right, Dennis, thank you so much. And like we said, Dennis, you do talk to a lot of people here out at Shell Point, and truly you don't have to be a client to come and ask Dennis questions. He is available, and all you have to do, you could either go to the bank on the island, or you can also call Tiffany, who is our managing executive at the bank on the island, and that's 461-5999, 461-5999, and we will help you in any way we can. Dennis, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm Jessica Stillwell with FindMark National Bank and Trust.
In the Shell Point Salon and Spa, one of the ways they can help you relax is with hot stones. Let's learn more.
Hi, my name is Robin Church, and I'm here in the Island Salon in the massage room. And today we're just going to talk a little bit about some of the elements that Robert Bissett uses in his massage. One of them being these interesting stones.
Yes, Robin, I incorporate warm stones in the massage. What the stones are, they're not anything special. What the stones are, they're like river rocks, like up north. They're very dense and heavy stones. And what they do, Robin, is they hold the heat for a long time. And what the heat does is it penetrates down to some of the deeper underlying muscles versus, let's say, a heating pad just kind of touches the surface. The heat penetrates deeper into it to get to the bone and get to some of those deeper muscles. So the stones are very beneficial to use and incorporate with the massage. The heat always helps out.
Because I've noticed that, when there's something that you're working on, it takes a while to let that muscle on top loosen up so that you can get to that muscle underneath.
Exactly. That's where a lot of some of the deep tissue massage would incorporate. Deep tissue doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get beat up. It addresses the deeper underlying muscles as opposed to the superficial muscles that we have, just the surface muscles. We have aching muscles that are deeper underneath other muscles that we need to get to.
Sure.
And the heat really helps that.
Well, I love these hot stones, and these are really not just common stones, because these stones are very expensive, and they're made specifically for massage, and they're just very smooth. They're wonderful. You would not necessarily think that it feels good to have these stones going over your back during the massage, but let me tell you, it's heavenly. It feels wonderful. Another great element is the hot, steamy towels.
Well, sure, yes. I incorporate moist heat in the massage. We have a towel warmer here, so I incorporate some nice hot towels, and that just over your neck and over the muscles that have been massaged, it just helps really release and just ease the tension of the moist heat. I think everybody knows how the moist heat works.
And it's nice also, like when you're kind of finishing up a little bit, to run the hot towel over. It's very soothing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Working.
Yes, they love the hot towels.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Robert. Really appreciate it. And again, Robert uses the hot stones and the hot towels during his massage, which are very nice. Those additional elements worked in there. If you'd like to make an appointment, please just give us a call at 489-8400. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our computer labs are always staffed with helpful volunteers. Let's find out how you can help.
Hi, I'm Terry Koleth, and I'm here today with Meg Singer of Teledora. We're talking about the computer center on the island that she coordinates. Thanks for joining me, Megs.
Hi, Terry. My pleasure.
Now, we have two computer centers. One is at the Woodlands and the Commons building, and the other is the island and the tunnel. That's the one you coordinate.
Yes, yes, that we have signs pointing to it.
We do. In fact, we should say you go into the tunnel, you look like you're going into the pottery studio, you follow the signs back behind between the pottery studio and the stamp room. Lots of people find that place because you're very well used, aren't you?
Yes, we are. We have a teaching center over there where we hold our classes, but behind that, actually around the corner, we have our computer center where anyone can come and use a computer. This is so important because people come to Shell Point, and some people, their computer breaks and they want to use the computer center, or they don't have internet and they want to check their email, or they don't have a printer and they want to print.
Or they're taking one of the many classes and they have a question.
Oh, absolutely, and they need to practice while they're taking their classes.
Sure. So it's a full-service operation for everything to do with computers. Very nice. So what does the volunteer do when they come in? They turn on the lights and...
They turn on the lights, they turn on the computers, they check the paper supply, they check the ink supply, they check to make sure that the internet is active. And they are ready to introduce people, have them sign in. As a volunteer, you sign in your volunteer hours, and when you leave, you go through another series of steps to make sure that it's ready for the next group.
Now, what is it like to volunteer there? What are you looking for in a volunteer?
I'm looking for someone who's comfortable using computers. And you come in and you help people search for something on the internet. You mostly help them find their email. And there's a lot of different kinds of emails that are supported over there. And so we help people in that way. Or sometimes the screen, the type gets too big and they can't read it, and then we help them see the whole page, that kind of thing.
That must be very, very rewarding.
It really is. The most exciting thing that happened to me recently was there was a brand new resident. He went up to the service desk and asked Jill Aldrink, I want to know how long Christmas vacations last in the rest of the world. Can you tell me? And she said, no, but you could go down to the computer center. So this guy walks in. He says, I've never used a computer. I don't know how to type, but I want to find out the answer to this question.
Research, oh my gosh.
And I was able to help him, and it was really fun. And the best thing about helping people is that you always learn something more yourself.
Absolutely.
And also as a volunteer in the computer center, you get to take computer college classes at no charge. So that makes it really fun. So you can always be learning and growing.
And there's a good reason for that. There's so much help that's given in the computer centers that help people with learning. So we want our computer center volunteers to have as much information as possible.
Yes, we want them to be always learning and growing. And things are always changing. And so you have to keep using it and practicing.
That's right.
If you want to keep up with the changes that are always happening.
So there's a knowledge you get yourself. There's the joy of sharing that knowledge, and that's a wonderful part about volunteering here in our community. What are you looking for? What kind of time commitment from a volunteer?
Well, right now we have volunteers that serve 2 hours in the morning or 2 hours in the afternoon, Monday to Friday, 2 hours on Sunday afternoon. If someone has those 2 hours, that would be great. If they want to try it out as a substitute, I'm very open to that too.
And we are grateful that there are people that make the commitment to do this for our community.
I love doing it, Terry.
Thank you so much for your leadership, Megs, and for talking today. Give Megs a call if you're interested in finding out about opportunities in the Island Computer Center. I'm Terry Kolath.
Are you looking for an interesting travel experience this summer? How about a journey to the Grand Hotel in beautiful Mackinac Island, Michigan?
Hi everybody, I'm Bev Chandley and I'm here with Jeannie Van Houten from Icings Travel. Jeannie she does the magic with our travel program here at Shell Point. We work together, we've been working together for 5 years, and we're here to talk a little bit about a trip we have coming up this summer in July to Mackinac Island in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Well, last summer when I went on a vacation, I did go to Mackinac Island, and I got on the phone when I got back and I said, Jeannie, if ever there was a good summer trip for our residents, maybe this would be it. And so her idea was,
well, perfect. We're going to go to Mackinac Island, beautiful island set between the upper and the lower peninsula of Michigan, some of the most beautiful area that there is in Michigan. And we're going to stay at the wonderful Grand Hotel, which is really America's summer place since 1887.
Wow, that sounds nice already, but do we fly right into, we can't fly to the island, can we?
We can't. We're going to fly as close as we can get, which is Traverse City. Again, a wonderful little place right on Lake Michigan. We'll overnight there before we get going on our wonderful scenic drive up along the coast of Michigan.
Well, that sounds, where will we stay in Traverse City?
We're going to stay at the Grand Traverse Resort in Traverse City for an overnight, and then travel the following day through some of the most beautiful scenery in Michigan to the ferry landing that'll take us over to Mackinac Island.
Now, one little town I remember visiting last summer that I fell in love with was Petoskey. Are we going to be going through Petoskey?
Absolutely. We'll make a stop in Petoskey, very charming little town. What did you experience in Petoskey that you liked so much?
Well, first of all, the name of it was very curious to me because I have sort of a geology background, so I thought Petoskey stones. But I was fascinated with that little town. It's a very artsy little town and has the best gelato on the planet. Well, you know, when we get to Mackinac City, before we get our ferry, will we get a chance to see that Mackinac Bridge that everybody hears about?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Does it go to the island?
No, there's no way to get to the island but by boat or by ferry. We'll take that over to the island. And when we get to Mackinac Island, there's no motor vehicles, only horse-drawn carriages.
That's what I really loved. I loved the sound of the horse hooves, clip-clop, clip-clop. No traffic, no smell of vehicles, no horns. It was wonderful, just foot traffic and horses.
It's definitely a step back in time, and then to have the wonderful opportunity to spend 3 nights at the Grand Hotel, a magnificent hotel built in 1887, and they're still keeping the old world charm about it, and the classiness about it, the elegant classiness about it.
Well, when we were there last summer and we went to the Grand Hotel, that we were treated so nicely, and they took us to the lunch area where we had a buffet lunch that was unbelievable. And so we're not going to go hungry at the Grand Hotel.
No, the food is outstanding now, and we will include all the breakfasts and all the dinners. And then, of course, after dinner in the evening, you have the Grand Hotel Orchestra that plays every evening. Just a really wonderful end to each day.
And we have some tours during the daytime. The horse-drawn carriages will be coming regularly up to the hotel and take the residents where they want to be, or they can go on an organized tour. Is that right?
That's right. We're going to include a horse-drawn carriage tour of the island itself. We're also going to have a cruise, a lighthouse cruise on the island, so that'll be something extra special. We'll go to a special art museum that they have there called the Richard and Jane Minogian Art Museum. And then we're going to have extra special items at the hotel itself. We'll have a private history lecture just for our group. We'll have a behind-the-scenes tour of the Grand Hotel. And then, of course, there's all that wonderful time just to relax on the longest covered porch in the world.
The big porch, I remember quite well. It was lovely. I could have sat there for hours.
Well, I think what's unique about the Grand Hotel experience is the experience itself, the classic experience, the elegant experience, and the really wonderful step back into time that you just don't find these days.
It's hard to find, that's for sure. I'm so glad that we've had this opportunity to put this trip together. Now, if the residents sign up now, will they save a little money?
Absolutely. There's an advance purchase of $50 per person as long as they get in.
March 15th.
March the 15th. We already have a lot of people signing up. The trip will fill up very quickly, so we encourage you to make your reservations as early as possible because it's sort of a once-in-a-lifetime kind of opportunity to go with Shell Point.
Well, I agree, and I think it's going to be a great trip, and we hope you'll think about signing up. We already have couples celebrating their 65th anniversary. We have quite a few signed up already, so do join us, and we're happy you joined us here today. Thank you on behalf of myself and Jeannie Van Houten.
Phyllis Langberg is sharing some amazing up-close photos of ospreys. She calls the program Empty Nesters.
Hello, everyone. I'm here today with Phyllis Langberg of Sundial. We're talking about a program she's going to do for us in the Academy, Empty Nesters. Thank you for joining me, Phyllis.
Pleasure.
I love the title. We all know what empty nesters means by our age, right?
Right.
And now you're giving us a different look at empty nesters.
Yes. It's kind of a funny story. We lived in Fort Myers quite a while, and we knew about Shell Point. And when we decided to come over and look at a place to live, we never meant to move here right away. We thought, like a lot of people do, we would get our foot in the door with a very small unit and then at some time move here.
When you were ready.
When we were ready. And we were just getting ready to go back and sign papers for the smallest unit we could get. And our salesperson said, well, there is one unit, and you've told us you're interested in bird watching and photography, and it's right near our osprey nest. So would you like to see it? And of course we said yes, and he brought us to the 4th floor of Sundial, and the apartment was all torn apart, and there was the osprey nest. And Jerry got little stars in his eyes, and we said, if we don't take this now, we might lose the opportunity and we'll never come again. So we decided to move right away. And we never looked back. And at that time, there was not much going on in the nest. But we moved in, and we started to live 3 years ago, in February, in the unit. And the first year, not much happened. But the second year, there were eggs, and they hatched. And the very first day, around 24 hours later, something happened. We went out to eat. We brought some friends back to take a look. And by the time we got back, there were some sad-looking parents crying. No babies, no shells, nothing. It was a terrible, tormented rainstorm. And we didn't know what happened. So we anxiously awaited, along with all of our neighbors, and I think half of Shell Point, to see what would happen next. And last year, we had a great success. There were 3 eggs in the nest. And Jerry said, if you'd like, I'll set the camera up and help you if you want to take pictures. So we got the big lens out and aimed it towards the nest and waited. And there were 3 eggs in the nest, and they hatched in 2013. It was February 1st, 2nd, and 4th. And I have no scientific knowledge about birds, certainly not about ospreys. But right now, they've become my little friends, and now we're on next year's family. I just went away for a couple days and saw them sitting again, so we'll see what happens this year. But my talk is going to be about that.
How wonderful for those of us who don't have that 4th floor bird's eye view, that we're all going to be able to see this progression of the eggs to the chicks to the birds. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for your bravery to say, I will share this with all of Shell Point. We're delighted. I hope you join us for this rare and wonderful opportunity to see the ospreys from the egg on their progression to a bird and the empty nest.
David Parton of Rosemont creates amazing wood sculptures that are also functional. Let's learn more about them.
I really got started by watching my father make several additions to our home when we were children. And then I took a class in woodworking in high school. And since then I've done wood projects whenever I could. For woodworking, this is a great place to come because it's a large wood shop and it has virtually any tool that you can figure out how to use. You have someone to talk to for consultation, and it's just a very good place for getting ideas and for getting technical help. I call my work functional wood art, and what I mean by that is that the pieces that I build can be used for some purpose. Typically, they have some hooks on them to hang your dog leash, hanging a cap or umbrella, and usually there's some sort of a covered area or door opening into a place to store items that you might want to keep. This piece was inspired by this piece of smalted red oak, and the wood on this side here came from the rest shelter built out on Shell Point Boulevard. For function, we have some storage, key hooks, and you can throw coats on the top of it. This one here in the corner was designed to provide a spot for a cherished abalone shell, which we've had for 40 years. Both sides open up, and the shelving inside are slabs of the base of a juniper tree. This piece was inspired by the panel here, which looked to me like a spring motif of a plant sprouting, and so we let it come up through the door here, and it serves to store CDs. This whimsical piece, it's a foyer piece that has some storage. This is our butler, and his arms are outstretched and his palms are up in order that he can receive any token of appreciation that you may have. I made this door, and it needed a home, and so it now provides the cover for shoe storage, display area for a vase or flowers or any treasured object, which is something I try to build into as many of these pieces as possible, is an option for the individual owner to decorate them. This piece was contributed by a variety of people. This was also a donation. It's a burl with an embedded piece of granite, perhaps. This whimsical piece started with this face, which clearly had a mouth and a couple of eyes, and inside is storage for keys and cell phones. There are a couple of small shelves inside, and then you can see on the back here the hooks for hanging umbrellas, whatever. This little piece is simply decorative, although it does have a little storage for things like candy. This is the spathe of a queen palm, which inspired this piece, the combination of its shape and the shape of this oak. The important thing about this case that I would like to point out is that I try to reveal the life history of the tree. It is decayed from lying on the floor of a forest in North Carolina, and these hooks are burl of walnut. I was going to build a piece that was starkly modern, maybe with cables and the other end here. So I built this side here with the theme of branches at the top and roots at the bottom. so that for me it represents symbolically the beauty of trees. My inspiration typically starts from a piece of wood because we get unique pieces of wood, and then I ask, well, what can I do with it? There's some rules, a golden rectangle rule, which suggests what dimensions you ought to have for the width and height. And it's going to have to look like it's situated wherever it's at. And then that means that the bottom has to look heavier, whether it is or not. The big thing is the wood, because each piece is different, and it's fun to try to expose the individuality of the wood. I'm always surprised as to exactly how something turns out, because I have to adjust as things go along, because I normally don't have more than a sketch, and sometimes I don't even bother with that. When some striped mahogany came in to the shop, that I would make a couple of these little tables using that striped mahogany. And I trace the patterns onto a plank and cut it out on the bandsaw, and then I go to a big circular sander that allows me to straighten out the little crooks in the sawing. Then I start fitting it into this jig, and if I didn't spill any glue where I shouldn't have, it ought to pick right out. Yeah, okay. Sand down this rough sanded box to fit under here, and that will be a place to store items like pencil and paper. I think of it as sort of a couch potato table, where you have close by a place to put your book, put your cup of coffee, and if you want to take a note, you can do so. And then it comes to the legs. We will end up with opposite legs going in the opposite direction. And then if we shift these around, these will be going that way too. I love woodworking because it allows me to plan a project and see how it comes out. And I've done it all my life, and there's this amount of familiarity to doing that sort of thing that I find very, very comforting. And so I call it my physical therapy, and this is a great place to do that.
We're glad that you joined us for today's show. Tune in next week for more stories and news from around your community.
Until then, this is Shell Point Today for the all-important weekend of February 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. I'm Jared Pike.
And I'm Rochelle Chernowski. From all of us here at Shell Point TV, we hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday.